Did you know that the birthright citizenship in America traces back not to the 14th Amendment, but to the English common law dating to the year 1608? A case called Calvin's case established that anyone born within the dominion of kings was a subject of the king, the birth alone, not by the status of their parents, not by their religion, not by their race, by their birth. The men who wrote the 14th Amendment in 1868, 1 year after the Civil War ended, took that principle and wrote it into the supreme law of the United States. They did it deliberately. They chose universal language on purpose because they had watched what happens to a country that decides some people born in the soil are less than citizens. On 30th of June, 2 days before America celebrated its 250th birthday, the Supreme Court of the United States upheld that promise from 6 to 3. Welcome back to Voices with Anissa, your immigration hub. Today we're going to be breaking down everything you need to know about the birthright citizenship ruling in plain language and what it means for your family right now. Plus a new asylum office opening this week in Atlanta and new ICE director that every immigrant community needs to know about. Let me start giving you the complete picture because this ruling is historic and the details matter. On the 20th of January 2025, the very first day of his freedom term, or second term, not freedom term, second term, the president signed Executive Order 14160 attempting to end birthright citizenship. The order said that the children born in the U.S. to parents who are undocumented, who are here on temporary visas, will no longer automatically receive U.S. citizenship. Now, that order was blocked by courts almost immediately. It never took effect anywhere in the country, but the legal fight made its way to the Supreme Court in a case called Trump versus Barbara. 30th of June, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Trump executive order was unlawful. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote in a majority opinion. He was joined by fellow conservative Amy Barrett and Barrett Kavanaugh, and all three liberal justices, Sotomayor, Keegan, and Jackson. Robert wrote, the framers of the 14th Amendment extended that the promise to every born person in this land. We keep that promise today. Now, the Trump administration argued that subject to the jurisdiction thereof was a narrow phrase intended to apply only to the children of permanent residents or citizens. They argued that it was written specifically for formerly enslaved black people and never meant to include the children of visitors or undocumented immigrants. Chief Justice Roberts rejected the argument directly. He wrote that Trump administration lawyer had offered insufficient evidence for what he called a dramatically revisionist view of the amendment's history and text. The ACLU, Cecilia Wang, herself birthright citizen born to Chinese parents, argued the case before the court. She said the men who wrote the 14th Amendment deliberately conferred citizenships on the child, not the parent. In America, we don't punish children for the sins of their fathers, she argued. When you're born in this country, we're all Americans, all the same. Three conservative dissented, which is Clarence Thomas, Senor Alito, and Neil Gorsuch. Justice Thomas wrote 91-page dissent agreeing with Trump that the 14th Amendment was primarily written for formerly enslaved black people. Justice Alito said the ruling preserves what he called a medieval rule of citizenship, and Trump immediately after the ruling posted on Truth Social arguing that Congress to pass legislation to end birthright citizenship through statute. He wrote, and we quote, Congress has to start today to work on ending expensive and unfair to our country birthright citizenship. They will have my complete and total support. Now, the fight is not over. The court closed the door on the executive order door. Trump immediately pointed to a different door, congressional legislation, whether Congress can constitutionally end birthright citizenship through statute without a constitutional amendment. It's a legal debate that will continue, but here is what it said today. The executive order is dead. It never took effect, and the court did a 6-3 ruling sends a strong signal that any future attempt, executive or legislative, faces an extremely high constitutional bar. Now, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please go ahead and do so, especially with mixed families, undocumented parents, and anyone on a temporary visa who has a child in the U.S., the ruling affects them directly. So drop a like and let's keep going. Now, What does this really mean practically for a family? If you are undocumented and your child is born in the US, your child is a US citizen. The Supreme Court just confirmed it. The executive order never applied. It was blocked from day one and now it's permanently struck down. Your child's citizenship is not the question today. If you're in the US on a temporary visa, a F1 student visa, an H1B visa, B1 or B2 tourist visa, and your child was born here, your child is a U.S. citizen. The Trump administration order specifically targeted children of temporary visa holders as well as undocumented immigrants. The court struck it down for both categories. So if you had a child born in the U.S. before this ruling, nothing has changed for them. Their citizenship was never a legal jeopardy because the order never took effect. What you should watch going forward basically is Congress. Trump has explicitly called Congress to pass a legislation. Legal scholars are divided on whether Congress can limit birthright citizenship through statute without a constitutional amendment, which requires two-thirds vote in both chambers and ratifications by three-quarters of the states. Now, that is extremely high bar, but the legislative push is coming. Stay informed. And here is the Clarence Thomas dissent that deserves direct attention because it will be the basis of future legal arguments. Thomas wrote that the 14th Amendment was meant for formerly enslaved black people and their descendants, not for the children of foreign nationals. Now, Justice Brown directly addressed this, in her concurring opinion. She wrote that the 14th Amendment universal language was deliberate choice, and that yes, Black Americans have suffered a singular wrong, but the framers who chose language that reflected principle already long-standing in American culture and law. Now, another quick update first. If you're an asylum applicant in Georgia or Alabama, pay attention. USCIS is opening a new asylum office in Atlanta beginning July 8th, this Wednesday, okay? Interviews for affirmative asylum applicants under the Atlanta Asylum Office jurisdiction, which covers Georgia and Alabama, will now be conducted at 3 locations: a new temporary Atlanta office, the USCIS Atlanta Field Office, and the USCIS Montgomery Field Office in Alabama. If USCIS schedules your asylum interview, carefully review your interview notice for which location you're assigned to. Do not assume you're going to the same place you went before. 3 location means 3 possible addresses. Read the notice, confirm the address, show up on time. A second new ICE director is coming. Secretary Markwayne Mullin praised Trump's nominee for Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement on June 26. The nominee has yet to be confirmed by the Senate, but the direction is clear. ICE is now the most funded law enforcement agency in U.S. history. $70 billion authorized. A new director sets the tone, the priorities, and the enforcement culture of the agency at that exact moment is more resourceful or has more resources than he has ever had. Who that person is and what they prioritize matters for every immigrant community in this country. We'll cover the confirmation hearing when it happens. Watch this. Share this episode with every Mixed Day as family you know. Drop a comment. Tell me if this ruling changes anything in your household. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. New immigration episodes every week. I leave you in the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum.